What is going on, ladies and gents? Welcome to VEVE Investments. I appreciate you tuning in. On today's episode, we're continuing our fun fact series with part 4 today. So if you guys enjoy the content, make sure to like and subscribe. Comment down below what you want to see in a future episode. Without further ado, sit back, relax, and enjoy. So we're keeping it on the fun side of things for today, just considering we recapped David's interview with Binance for our last episode. You guys do really seem to enjoy this series. So for today's episode, we're talking about 18 facts you may or may not know about VEVE and David and Dan. So with that being said, let's hop into the first one. So I thought I'd start the video off by talking about some of the lowest mints for some of the most popular brands on the app. We have Disney, Marvel, DC, and Star Wars. So for Disney, the most scarce collectible they have to offer on VEVE right now is going to be the Oh My Mini poster. This is actually a relatively newer piece, but it only has 343 editions. I do believe I got this right. Keep in mind, guys, there are so many collectibles on this platform now, it's kind of hard to keep track, and some of the collectibles still don't show up in the search bar. But Marvel's rarest collectible is going to be the secret rare Miles Morales with 250 editions. In terms of DC, not quite as scarce as the last two, but 940 editions for one of their Christmas posters. And then for Star Wars, we got Rey's little droid with 477 editions. Next up, we're talking about the Batman vs. Killer Croc battle statue. Now, I'm a massive fan of Big Bang Theory. This is my favorite show. And what you'll notice from time to time is in Stewart's comic book store, you'll actually see the battle statue on one of the shelves in the background. Now, of course, Leonard, Sheldon, Raj, and Howard are all big nerds, so there are multiple other collectibles featured throughout the show that we could potentially see on the VEVE app in the future. Next up, I wanted to dive into David's Instagram a little bit, because I believe there are actually multiple photos he has that showcase things we could potentially see on the app down the line. So speaking of the first one of many Cause photos that he has on his profile. Cause is going to be a very popular artist. These are some other pieces related to Banksy. These are pieces that David actually sells inside of his Vagabond store. But considering Banksy got announced, I would not be surprised if we see stuff like this in the future. Next up, and something we've seen a couple times, showcased inside of an older version of the showroom, but also on David's profile, augmented into reality, we have the classic Batmobile. So this is something I do expect in the future, and you can clearly see in the video on screen right now that this is VEVE. Next up, David does have a lot of SpaceX related stuff on his Instagram page as well. The reason why I wanted to include this is because David made a comment in the interview with Binance about how back in 2017, David and Dan pretty much pitched anyone and everyone they could think of. So that, coupled with the fact that David has a very strong passion for this company, I would not be surprised at all if they've talked to them in some way. Next up, we got a brand that I grew up with, the Teletubbies. But this time, these are pieces created by Ron English, obviously an artist we already have on the platform, with his little style thrown into it. So David does own a lot of Ron English pieces, and he said time and time again in the past that he's a big fan of his work. So again, I would not be surprised if we see something like this in the future. Now, in addition to the Cause and Banksy pieces, Bear Bricks is going to be another thing you see a lot on his profile, and this is also going to be another brand that he offers inside of his Vagabond store. And last but not least, I thought I'd just round it off with a couple more examples of the Banksy statues. Next up, we're talking about some comics here. So we have Marvel Comics #1 and Marvel's #1. And I don't know if you guys have noticed it already, but they have a very similar comic cover that showcases the exact same characters. On the left-hand side, you're going to see the Human Torch, and on the right, you're going to see the Man in Green. The only difference here is that in Marvel Comics #1, the Human Torch is getting shot by the Man in Green, whereas in Marvel Comics #1, the Man in Green is being chased by the Human Torch. It's a fun little fact there, and if you guys didn't know about it, now you do. Next up, we're talking Oswald and Mickey. So for those who don't know, Oswald was actually Walt Disney's first character creation ever, but from my understanding, Walt actually lost the rights to Oswald as he was making the character, and this was to a business partner that he had that I believe worked at Universal. So yes, it did all start with a mouse, but Mickey Mouse was not the first mouse. In fact, the only real reason Mickey exists is because Walt lost the rights to Oswald. Next up, we have Wally on the app as a golden moment, so I thought I'd share this with you guys. Wally was designed by Apple's Senior Vice President of Industrial Design back in 2005, Jonathan Ive. who also designed iPods and iPhones. Little shout out to those who remember the original iPod where you had to scroll like the old rotary phones. Next up, we're talking about Walt Disney. So Walt Disney was the original voice of Mickey Mouse. Many people know this, but if you didn't know, he also was the original voice of Minnie for roughly a year and a half before someone else ended up taking over. Let's talk about where VEVE was founded. So David and Dan founded VEVE while they were actually living in Taiwan. This was back in 2017, I believe it was. David is from New Zealand. Dan is from Australia, but Akomi is registered in Singapore. So they're all over the place. And you wonder why David has such a unique accent, right? So we have one 4-color comic that's dropped on the app so far. That's going to be the Scrooge McDuck comic from Disney. But the reason these are called 4-color comics is because the title refers to the 4 basic colors that they used when printing comic books back in the day. This was cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. And the first 25 issues between 1939 and 1942 are known as Series 1. Next up, this one's a little interesting to me, okay? So hear me out. Patrick Hughes uses his personal signature for his brand logo on VEVE. I compared the signature to the one he does in real life, and it matches. So technically speaking, his signature is on the back of all his pieces if you flip them around. Now, I completely understand he didn't digitally sign each one of the ones that were minted, but from an aesthetic standpoint, I understand it's just his logo, but I think it's still cool to have because it does look like he signed it. Next up, we're going to have the Radiator Springs art piece. The mountain ridges in the back are supposed to resemble the tail end of an older Cadillac, okay? And it's going to be the only piece in the set that actually has a description, if you flip it around, a description that explains the inspiration for the piece. What it says is that the background was inspired by the Cadillac Ranch by Ant Farm, and it does have a copyright year of 1974 listed as well. Next up, let's talk about the Wakanda poster. So the Wakanda poster was a piece that you were able to get via a promo code that was given to you from VEVE. I'm not 100% sure why you would have been given the promo code, so can someone fill me in the comment section down below? But regardless, only 100 of them were claimed. So if VEVE does decide to burn the remaining editions, this will become the rarest Marvel collectible on the app, but so far, right? Obviously, they can release something more rare down the line. Next up, we're talking about Young Avengers #1, and shout out to My Collectibles, credit to you because you're the one I got this from. In this issue, you're going to get the first appearance of Hulkling and Wiccan. The story talks about how a mysterious group of young heroes have appeared in the wake of a great tragedy. But what you're also going to get is you're going to get an early appearance of Kang the Conqueror. So if you're someone who enjoys reading the stories, you can grab this for a couple bucks in the secondary market, open it up, and you'll see him inside. So why all of a sudden is Disney using Oswald in their promotions? Well, Oswald's copyright ran out. So because the copyright expired, this is what's allowing Disney to use him in more of their recent promotions. As of January 1st, 2023, several of the original Oswald shorts are in public domain. So this is going to be similar to Steamboat Willie. Steamboat Willie, the original short film, that is also in public domain. I did a video on that a little while back, but also others like Winnie the Pooh and Piglet. Fact number 15, how David met Dan. Well, funny enough, and this is a short one for you guys, but David did mention that Dan built his first gaming website. Now, David did start Vagabond Toys at 17 years of age, so I'm assuming it was for that business, unless it was something before that that just ended up failing. But prior to VEVE, Dan was a co-founder of a marketing and web agency, and I'm assuming it was probably a service provided through that. What happens to sales from Sesame Street drops? Well, Sesame Street Collectibles help fund its mission-driven work to help children everywhere grow smarter, stronger, and kinder, while giving its longtime adult fans a new way to showcase their love for the brand. So I know when this got announced, a lot of non-VEVE users who just heard the term NFT were immediately like, oh my God, why are they releasing this? NFTs are scams, they shouldn't be doing that, blah, 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 blah. Digital collectibles are providing more opportunities now for non-profit companies. There were 5,555 of these collectibles created. Do you think it's really feasible for a not-for-profit company to make 5,555 physical collectibles? No, the cost is way higher associated with that as opposed to what it is with VEVE. So I think this is cool, and for those who didn't know, funds from their drops are going to be donated to the work they're doing with children. Second to last, we're talking about the secret rare poster that dropped in the most recent Star Wars poster drop. The poster depicts a bearded man with a lightsaber and an unknown female character, but it was painted as an early poster concept in 1976 during the original production of Star Wars. So what you see on the right hand side is technically concept artwork for the Star Wars film. So here I am originally thinking that the only concept work on the platform was the cars and now finding Mimo pieces, but Star Wars has some concept art of their own. And last but not least, for anyone who did not know this, if you turn the ultra rare and secret rare Lamborghinis around, you will also have a VEVE license plate. The first two rarities don't have it, the last two do. And it's going to mark the first collectibles on the VEVE platform with the new branding, minus artwork. I'm pretty sure some art pieces probably have the new logo on the back. But this is the first collectible figurine, and the second one that followed it shortly after was the Frank Kozik pieces that I'll toss on screen now. They have the VEVE logo on their shoulder. Now, I really like this, and the reason why is because it's free branding for VEVE. When somebody augments their Lamborghini into reality, does a little 360 while recording it, and then tosses that on socials, and then somebody sees that who knows nothing about VEVE, it's only going to help promote the platform. It's doing it for free. VEVE is not spending any money to do that. And when you extrapolate that across thousands and thousands of people that are posting on socials, then that can be very effective for VEVE. That is going to conclude today's episode, guys. Part 4 of our fun fact series. I hope you enjoyed. If you guys know any fun facts yourself that I didn't cover in the video, make sure to comment them down below. I'm always interested to find out more. But if you enjoyed the content, make sure to like and subscribe. Comment down below what you want to see in a future episode. And as for our next, I'll catch you then.